Well, I was right in the middle of all that because I was brought up in Thomism when it was in its heyday, and the great, what we call, in this country at least, a bit of a triumphalistic spirit of Thomism. And all over the seminaries, that was the thing, and most of the Catholic institutions. St. Thomas was the great authority that you were recommended and supposed to teach, so that was very common. But then, after the Second Vatican Council, and it had been beginning before, the Vatican Council was just one sample of a bursting out of all kinds of a new spirit, trying to try new things, and a playing down of authority. So what happened then, the door was open, so to speak, to appreciating all kinds of other traditions, including religious traditions. And then the young Catholic scholars just sort of broke away from St. Thomas. They didn't refute him. They just lost interest and moved out into all kinds of other things. They were trained in principally phenomenology and existentialism and various things. So they just sort of moved away from St. Thomas, and they were a bit ticked off or turned off by the authoritarian aspect that had come into the Thomism. This is the one great authority, and that was very bad news. And St. Thomas would never have liked that. He was a revolutionary in his own day. Several of his doctrines got condemned, sort of officially, not by the whole church, but by the Bishop of Paris, and so they had to rescind those when they canonized him. They couldn't have a saint with doctrines condemned. They thought he was too dangerous, so he was not just a traditionalist. But anyway, he became this church authority, and then finally there was a breaking, a revolt against that authority in many fields. So the young philosophers were just moved away and were trained in all kinds of other things, and Thomism went down very precipitously during that time. It had gotten tied up too, I think, with being a little bit of the ghetto Catholic mentality that to hold together the unity of Catholic practice and faith and everything, you'd need this one philosophy. We all have to hold the one philosophy to hold the one church. Now that was an exaggeration, so that kind of monolithic unity began to break up all over the place. We began to welcome other religions more, that monolithic unity, and Catholics began to move out in America into outside of the ghetto, into all kinds of other places in business, and move out into the wider population. So they wanted to break away from this monolithic, too tight kind of unity of philosophical doctrine. So for those many reasons, there was and to break the barriers and open up like that. So the Thomism then dropped down to no longer there was no more authority. And so it's always kept on as a quiet, fairly strong, but by no means the only one now. So pluralism is now the order of the day all over the place, even in most Catholic places. So it was a move towards pluralism and away from monolithic unity and authority.